1st January 2021. We are entering the new year, and it is a very special day for all of us, but more special for the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna Deva, because of the Kalpataru Divas, or the Kalpataru day, or the wish fulfilling day. 1st January is celebrated in all Ramakrishna mission centers as Kalpataru Divas and by the devotees of Thakurma and Swamiji. So I have thought on this auspicious occasion to read the importance of Kalpataru Divas for all of us. What happened on 1st January 1886? Why this day is so very special for all of us? It marks the beginning of a new year and also a kind of awakening for all of us. What is that awakening that Sri Ramakrishna has called for us? Let us see. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine avatar varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Kalpataru Divas. I am reading from the webpage vedantasociety.net. The first day of January, besides being the New Year day, is of special significance to a Ramakrishna devotee. This is the day of self-revelation of Sri Ramakrishna, when he became what is now popularly called the Kalpataru, the wish-fulfilling tree. It happened on January 1st, 1886 at Cossipore, where Sri Ramakrishna was undergoing treatment for his throat cancer. He felt somewhat better that day and came down from his room for a stroll on the spacious lawns of the garden house. About 30 devotees were present and were scattered here and there in the garden. As soon as they saw the master, they all came near him and bowed down. The master said to Girish, "What have you seen that makes you glorify me publicly before one and all?" Girish at once fell at the master's feet and said with folded hands and choked voice, "What more can I say about him? Even a fraction of whose glory Vyasa and Valmiki miserably failed to express in their immortal epics and Puranas." Hearing these words of Girish, the master was deeply charmed and his mind soared to a high plane. Seeing the divinely illumined face of the master, Girish was thrilled and he cried out in great joy, "Glory to Ramakrishna, glory to Ramakrishna," and began taking the dust off his feet again and again. The master looked at all present and said smilingly, "What more shall I say to you? May you all be spiritually awakened." No sooner had he said these words than he went into Samadhi. What followed is best described in the words of Swami Sarada, who had seen the whole episode from a distance. When the devotees heard those words of blessing and protection from fear, they raised repeated cries of joy, exclaiming, "Glory to Ramakrishna." Some of them saluted him, some showered flowers, some again came and touched his feet. The master touched the devotees in that state of samadhi and blessed them all. The effect was instantaneous. Swami Saradananda's account continues. There arose by that marvelous touch a wonderful mood in the mind of each. Some of them began to laugh, some to weep, some to meditate, and some again to call aloud all others in order that they might also be blessed by receiving the grace of the Master and be sharers in the bliss that was overflowing. On later inquiry, it was known that the devotees blessed by the Master on that day had wonderful spiritual experiences and visions. Some felt bliss and a sort of divine intoxication. Some experienced the creeping blissful sensation of the rising Kundalini. Some saw ecstatic vision of their chosen deities, and some saw divine light. All the experiences were unique, each in its own way. Although they differed in their content, the feeling of being filled with an extraordinary divine bliss was common to all. As the Master had granted unstinted grace to one and all, some felt that he had revealed himself as the Kalpataru on that day. The 1st of January thus came to be known as the Kalpataru Day. The Cossipore residence, which now houses a center of the Ramakrishna order, became naturally the focus of attention. Sri Ramakrishna had stayed in the house for more than 8 months and, to crown it all, had showered the special grace on the devotees on the 1st of January. Each day devotees of Sri Ramakrishna from all over the world pour into the holy presence of the Cossipore house to feel the living presence of the Master and to share in the spiritual legacy left behind by him. The climax is reached every year on the Kalpataru Day when thousands and thousands rush to Cossipore to recapture the Kalpataru grace granted by the Master in 1886. At this stage, it is imperative that we inquire into some fundamental questions. What exactly do we mean when we say that Sri Ramakrishna became the Kalpataru on that occasion? Is it possible for us to derive any spiritual benefit from this incident separated from us by a distance of so many years? In other words, does the Kalpataru Ramakrishna continue to shower his grace even today? And is this divine privilege extended to the devotees only on the 1st of January? The Kalpataru or Kalpavriksha is pictured in the Indian mythology as a wish-fulfilling tree. Standing under it, whatever we wish comes true. Whatever we desire, we get. Indeed, one of the popular tales tells of a man resting under what eventually turned out to be a Kalpataru. Ah, if I had a beautiful bed to lie on, he muttered to himself as he turned on his side. And what was his amazement when he discovered a fine bed waiting for him. He then thought of an attendant, and in no time an attendant stood before him. Whatever the man wished appeared before him instantaneously. And now, if a tiger were to come, he mused, a tiger promptly showed up and lost no time in eating him. Now, is Sri Ramakrishna a Kalpataru of the traditional type? Everyone, whatever they desire? He doesn't seem to be so. The Kalpataru event at Cossipore clearly bears this out. Not all the people who received Sri Ramakrishna's grace that day could be said to have had no worldly desires of any kind. Yet it was not the fulfillment of those worldly cravings that this Kalpataru brought about. What Sri Ramakrishna did was something quite different. On that day he cast off the thin human veil that covered his divine identity and filled the devotees with the strength of grace. Swami Saradananda therefore finds it more reasonable to call the event the self-revelation of the Master. If we must use the word Kalpataru with regard to Sri Ramakrishna, it would be more appropriate to say that he manifested himself as a special Kalpataru that day. There are at least 2 points in which the special Kalpataru differs from its conventional counterpart. First of all, it does not grant us everything that we seek. It gives us only that which would ultimately lead us towards peace and fulfillment. Thus, the devotees and disciples of Sri Ramakrishna did not have all their desires fulfilled that day. The desires which would hinder their Godward march were not granted by him. It was in fact the extermination of those desires that this Kalpataru specialized in. This is the importance of Kalpataru Divas in all our lives. We are entering the new year. We pray to Sri Ramakrishna Deva. From the first day of this new year, may we all be in the presence of God. May we all remember the words of God, the words of Thakur. And may we see God in reality in all beings as Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda preached throughout their whole life. We pray to Thakur that in the new year, with more blessings, he blesses us. Thank you. Jai Thakur, Jai Swamiji, Jai Ma. A very happy new year to all of you, and you may all be blessed, specially blessed by Thakur. আমাদের ইউটিউব চ্যানেলটি সাবস্ক্রাইব করুন আরও ভিডিওস পেতে।